Sami Zayn has been on the run of a lifetime with his US Open challenges week in, week out on SmackDown. Can he keep his momentum going with his next challenge tonight? Who is it going to be? Oh my goodness, it's Oba Femi from NXT, the man who dominated the competition of both NXT and TNA, who also was both North American and NXT champion. He's here to answer the challenge on his first night.
And just like that, the wrestling world is shocked as Oba Femi officially makes his main roster debut on SmackDown. And on his first night on the main roster, he answers Sami Zayn's United States Championship Open Challenge. The former North American and NXT champion takes the fight to Sami Zayn. They go to war and it's a back and forth banger, and Oba Femi in the climax of the match would go at Sami Zayn, hit his finish, and before you know it, Oba Femi would win the match.
My oh my, Oba has won the United States Championship in his first debut match on the main roster. This is one of the most impressive debuts of all time.
Oba shocks the world, winning the US Championship on his first night in the main roster. But the next week on SmackDown, Sami Zayn comes out to confront and break up the celebration. Sami Zayn challenges him to a rematch at Survivor Series in San Diego. It all goes down. Oba Femi and Sami Zayn Part 2 for the US title. It's a rematch. Zayn gets his rematch, but in the climax of the match, Oba Femi begins to dominate his opponent. He dominates Sami Zayn, and eventually the same result happens as it did on SmackDown. Massive fall from grace, and Oba Femi retains the championship. Oba Femi would go on to absolutely demolish and take over the competition for the remainder of 2026 as he goes up and faces the best stars on the SmackDown roster, the best of the United States Championship division. He goes through guys like Santos Escobar, Rey Fenix, and he also goes up against longtime rival from back in NXT and Javon Evans. We then get to the Royal Rumble in 2026 in Saudi Arabia. It's a hectic match, an all-time Rumble classic, countless superstars, big names, small names, whatever you want. And then Oba Femi, the US champion himself, makes his presence felt as he is an entrant in the Royal Rumble match, as at this event the US and the IC champions compete in the match, and Oba Femi makes an absolute statement in his first ever Royal Rumble. He cleans house, throwing out guys like Chris Sabin, another old rival in Dragon Lee, and Grayson Waller. He absolute cleans house. That is until Damian Priest, the Arch of Infamy, makes his presence felt, and he eliminates the US champion in shocking manner. Damian Priest, the veteran, shows Oba Femi he's not up next. Damian Priest, though, makes the mistake of turning his back, and Oba Femi, taking a cheap shot, comes out from behind and eliminates Damian Priest unfairly, and then takes him and pushes him, slams him through the announce table. Oba Femi sets his sights on Priest after that brutal elimination at the Royal Rumble. They would go on to brawl for weeks on end in the parking lot. Damian Priest and Oba Femi would then climb the scaffold as Oba Femi gets thrown through a plate of glass backstage, and this leads to a one-on-one match for the US title at WrestleMania. Priest and Oba Femi one-on-one. The veteran takes on the newcomer, WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas. The match is great, but the veteran unfortunately is unable to get the win as he gets hit with the fall from grace. Oba Femi dominates, winning and retaining his United States title at his first ever WrestleMania. We then move on to the rest of 2026, and Oba Femi dominates the competition once again. Guys like The Miz, guys like the returning Kevin Owens after he returns from injury, and Oba Femi would become an absolute scary sight. At SummerSlam in London, he faces Jacob Fatu in a dream match, which is also a bit of a hoss fight in some ways, some would say. The match is back and forth. Fatu looks to get the advantage, looks for the moonsault, but Oba Femi moves out the way. Oba Femi then stalks Jacob Fatu, lifts him up, and hits him with that fall from grace. Oba Femi retains the US title. Oba Femi is approaching a year now as the US champion. That is until the next week on SmackDown, when he's interrupted by none other than Carmelo Hayes, the man who claims that he is him. And Carmelo Hayes gets in Oba's face, gets angry, says he deserves a fair shot, and he wants it at Survivor Series 2026. And Oba Femi officially obliges and gives it to him. It's going to be Carmelo Hayes versus Oba Femi, U.S. title on the line, Survivor Series 2026. And it's an absolute classic, ladies and gentlemen, an absolute banger. Two of the best athletes in the world going up against each other. Oba trying to keep his title and get past the year mark, because up until this point, he's been champion since last Survivor Series. And Carmelo Hayes is trying desperately to get championship gold. He climbs the top, hits nothing but net, goes for the pinfall, referee counts, but Oba shockingly kicks out. And then he climbs again, looks for another nothing but net, but this time Oba catches him. He caught him with that maneuver. He looks to put away, but Carmelo Hayes kicks out of the fall from grace, and up until this point, no one had kicked out of the fall from grace. Carmelo Hayes becomes the first to kick out of it. He then counters another fall from grace attempt, and he lands one last nothing but net. He goes for the pinfall once again. Ref counts. This time, it's 3. Carmelo Hayes dethrones Oba Femi, becomes the new United States champion. But ladies and gentlemen, just because this chapter for Oba is closed doesn't mean his story overall is over yet. We got to move on to the next chapter and phase of his career, because coming up next, the Royal Rumble in 2027. Oba Femi once again, a year later, enters the Rumble again. This time, he tosses out even bigger stars and veterans. He ends up throwing out guys like CM Punk, the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns, and Brock Lesnar, eliminating all 3 Paul Heyman guys to go to WrestleMania.
Oh my. In just his second year in WWE, Oba Femi has won the Royal Rumble match. Oba's heading to WrestleMania.
Oba wins the Royal Rumble, and the next night on Raw, he's there to make an announcement to choose who he's going to face at WrestleMania. But the announcement gets cut short by Brock Lesnar, the man who Oba eliminated the night prior to win the Royal Rumble. In the final 2, he attacks and F5s Oba Femi, and Brock Lesnar says, before you can get to the champion, you're going to have to go through me first. And the match is set up at the Elimination Chamber. But at the Elimination Chamber, Oba Femi proves he's more than worthy to challenge the champion as he takes the absolute fight to Brock Lesnar. He manhandles the Beast Incarnate and throws him through the table with the powerbomb, multiple power bombs to destroy the Beast Incarnate and move on to WrestleMania in 2027 live in Saudi Arabia. The next week on Raw, Oba is looking at both champions. WWE Champion Gunther from SmackDown, Braun Breaker, World Heavyweight Champion from Raw. Breaker's held the title for over a year at this point, and Oba looks at Braun Breaker, and he snaps, and he hits Breaker with the fall from grace, officially making his choice. He's going after the World Heavyweight Championship from Raw at WrestleMania, and it's all gonna go down as Breaker and Oba Femi go to war. WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia, 2027. Breaker and Oba are about to go to war, and Breaker, the champion, has been champion since late 2025 when he beat Seth Rollins. And the match starts, and Braun Breaker goes right after Oba, looks for a spear, but Oba counters. It's a back and forth contest. 2 world-class athletes at the top of their game, in their primes. Braun Breaker, the champion, Oba Femi, the challenger, who is no stranger to championship gold, as he looks to add another title tonight, and they both collide to the outside after Breaker hits a suicide spear. Oba Femi hits the fall from grace. He looks to pin Breaker. Can he become champion? But no, Breaker kicks out of that. He kicks out of the finish. Then Breaker lands a spear. Then he goes for the cover on Oba. Ref goes for the count, but unfortunately for Breaker, it's Oba Femi who kicks out. These two kick out of each other's finishes, and then at the climax of the match, Oba Femi gets fired up, stares at Braun, picks him up, looks for another fall from grace, but this time he holds on to it, and he hits him with another one. Then he holds on again, hits him with another one, then picks him up for another one, and then one last fall from grace, tossing Breaker right to the canvas. He covers Breaker, and Oba wins.
He did it, Michael. Oba Femi, one of the fastest rising stars in WWE history, has become the new World Heavyweight Champion. Unbelievable.
He makes history. Oba Femi officially becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. Only his second year on the main roster, and he dominates. But ladies and gentlemen, this is how Oba Femi should be booked and how he should dominate WWE in 2026.